We'll see.
All right, let's go into our predictive survey,
I
and
was just
we
gonna say, yeah,
we have a couple
yeah.
things that I would like to talk about. Where do you think the price of Boeing will be the end of July? Boeing is now about 205. It's had a tough, tough year and a half, actually longer
Yeah.
than that. But it's actually picked up some steam recently. It started to gain back. We had the positive news coming out of Qatar. Not that Qatar
Right.
is sending a Boeing aircraft to the United States, but purchasing more Boeing planes. And
Exactly. Yep.
from a military standpoint, Boeing is also receiving orders from the U.S. regarding aircraft. Where do you think the price of this major company will be the end of July?
I'm kind of bullish on where Boeing is going. Boeing is going for all those reasons, and I will also make a prediction. I think that as China, so China, like I was saying before, China in the midterm, they're it they can wait as long as they want. However, if they want to keep their economy intact and not risk too much, they're going to have to make a deal at some point. And I think that
Mhm.
one of the easy things they can do, and I think it's end of July might be an interesting window to look at because
Mhm.
it'll be around that 90-day period that.
Mhm.
So one of the givebacks that they could offer up is to either renegotiate or reinstate the deal that they had with Boeing, which
It's a
were
very good point.
some of the largest like deals that Boeing ever had was
So, do you want to make the
pending on
price
that.
prediction, Mr.
Yeah,
Predictive
well, what's I
Instinct
can't I
Survey?
didn't what is it around
$205 right
250
now, about
205? Okay,
205.
I'll predict we'll be between I think we'll be between 250 and 275 by the end of July,
Interesting.
assuming that some of these things happen. That's my prediction.
That would be a significant gain, but I'm
Yep.
with you. I think by the end of July, Boeing will be up more. They've gone through a very bad year and a half, as I said. There was a lot of risk premium priced into that stock also. And really, where else are people going to go? I know you can go to Airbus. There are a few emerging companies
Hmm.
in the aviation also, but Boeing remains a big boy on the block. And like you, I believe the stock is going to do well. Of course, this is only our opinion. Please play the tape.
All content on the Risk Reward Show is for entertainment purposes only and not to be construed as financial advice. The hosts are idiots. They don't know what they're doing. They're not financial advisors. Come on, they just walked in from the street. Investments involve risk, so please consult a qualified professional before making decisions.
Okay, we're back. So, I believe, as I said, Boeing will go up, and 270 would be a substantial gain, but not shocking to me. I'll
Hmm.
be
Yeah.
conservative and say it'll be at 250. But if your China prediction comes true, and they do reverse their decision and want to play a loving game with President Donald Trump, number 47, I believe that you might be close to the reality. Okay, let's talk about the 10-year yield on the Treasury, which is now close to 4.5. We had the Moody's
Hmm.
downgrade on Friday, late Friday. Where do you think the 10-year yield on the bond will be, taking into consideration everything that we believe is going to happen in the market? Remember,
Uh,
let me point out for
and what
the
what time frame?
traders, let me point the end of July, the end of July.
Got it.
Let me point out for people that don't have much information on yields. The higher the yield means that investors are not going into the bond as much as anticipated, meaning that they're basically demanding a higher yield to invest money into the so-called debt instrument here. Okay. And
Hmm.
that means if the yield is higher, there's actually less confidence in the US economy in some ways. That's an interpretation. If the yield is lower, that means people feel more bullish about the American economy. Go ahead, Mr.
Yep.
Summer.
I've got a number for the end of July. I'm going to be bearish on this for a couple reasons. I'm going to say it's going to wind up being between 4.8 and 5, and 5 sets off alarm bells. And I think the reason for that is that I think that we're on shaky economic ground right now. We've already had the first quarter results of negative zero point 0.3 in terms of growth. If we get a second one, that means we're in a recession because it takes 2 quarters, as you know. I think that those results will be around that time, and that will affect the bond rate. And I think there's other stuff that's uncertain between now and then as well. So I
Okay.
hate to be bearish on that stuff, but
Now
that's where
you
I am.
mean bearish with attitude. Let's not
Correct.
confuse people because people could say bearish and think that it's going down in terms of the yield. So I understand. That's good. I'm
Right.
going to
Right.
disagree with you here. I
Okay. I
believe
hope
it'll
you're
be
right.
better. I th-
Okay.
I am optimistic. I think
Hmm.
that we're actually going to see more victory dances, whether they're deserved or not. I think the Chinese will be allowed to take a victory dance. That's all part of this game that we're seeing. I think the politicians on both sides of the aisle, internationally even, will be taking victory dances sometime in July. People will be more calm, and I predict the 10-year yield will be at 4.20 to 4.15. So
Wow. I hope
downwards.
you're right. I hope you're right.
Now, let's
I want to
go
be
to
dancing
the
in the street.
now yeah, don't we all? Don't we all? Yay or nay on this predictive question? Yay or nay on the big beautiful deficit bill that the Senate and House of Representatives, I guess, are working on regarding the spending for the U.S. in the next few weeks, months ahead. Is this going to pass easily, or
No.
are we going to see another firestorm emerge, causing problems over the next month?
Yeah, I don't. It just squeaked through a committee barely with 4 Republicans voting present rather than
So
voting
you're
for.
saying nay.
I'm saying nay. I don't think this is going to easily pass. I think it's going to have a rough time in the Senate, and I think that it could shut down the government for a couple of weeks, like we used to see in those bad old days. I hope I'm
Mm.
wrong on that one too, but
I
I
think it will
think
be
I'm
convoluted.
pessimistic.
I think it will be convoluted, but it will get passed and basically remain a gray area. So I don't say yay or nay. I just say the color gray, and it will pass. And I think Trump still has enough power to get things done. It's all about cutting some things that some of the Republicans want in terms of the deficit, and we'll see if they can please the people on the other side of the aisle and you know
Yeah.
create a big, wonderful deficit spending bill covering our U.S. debt for the next 6 months. Okay,
We'll see.
now let's go to sports quickly. Knicks versus Pacers. The Knicks fans were acting as if they won the NBA championship when they beat Boston last week. I grew
Yeah.
up in New York. I was not a Knicks fan, though. And I have to say, it pissed me off watching the fans act arrogant, dancing, surrounding the Celtics bus. I don't like the Celtics. I was rooting for the Knicks. They were acting as if they won the
Yeah.
championship. They just won
Mm-hmm.
one playoff round.
I
I
know
predict
it.
the Pacers
Then
will beat the Knicks in the so-called Eastern Championship Conference Series.
that'd be
Mr.
really
Summer,
interesting. You know what's interesting. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like
answer the
with any
question.
fan base. With any fan base, act like you've been there before. Don't act like this is like
Exactly.
the first time this has ever happened. So here's the
Exactly.
thing
And
about
don't
the
talk,
about the
don't talk shit. Don't talk
yeah.
shit. Your
All
team
right.
hasn't won an NBA championship since the early 1970s.
1973. And do you know what's interesting about these final four teams? That's the only one that's ever. The Knicks are the only one of the four teams remaining that have ever won a championship, and
Mm,
that was in 1973.
I really
So
like I like the Final
it's
Four
kind of
that's around.
cool.
So
Yeah,
who's going
it's
to
kind of
win?
cool.
Who's going to win,
I
the
think the
Knicks or
Timber will. I
Pacers?
think Timber. Well, I think it'll be the
Knicks or
Pacers,
Pacers?
And Timberwolves in the finals, and I think the
Oh, so you
Timberwolves will
think
win.
Minnesota is going to beat Oklahoma? Interesting.
Um,
That's what you just said. Timberwolves
that's
are from
true. Yeah,
Minnesota.
that's true. Yeah,
Okay.
they're just playing really. They're peaking at the right time.
Yeah, Minnesota. I like Anthony Edwards. I
Mm-hmm. Me
believe
too. Yeah.
he's a dynamic, charismatic player. I like his physicality. Seems to be the kind of person that enjoys playing basketball too, like the olden
Yeah.
days. Just wants to show up
Fun to
and
watch.
dominate you, beat you,
Yeah.
talk a lot of crap. Having said that,
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma is going to beat the Timberwolves. Now, to make the Timberwolves fans feel good before we get letters here, I picked the Lakers to beat Minnesota, and
Yeah, I did
Minnesota
too.
basically destroyed the Lakers.
They
So
did 5 games.
there we are.
I think
There
that
we are.
yeah, I think that they're like I said, they're just peaking at the right time. I think the betting will always be on in favor of Oklahoma. They've just been too good for too long. But I think I kind of like this
This season.
scrappy Timberwolves team. We'll see. I'd like to see them win.
They have a lot of size on Minnesota, which could actually play well
Mm-hmm.
against Oklahoma. They have Randall. They have who's the big French center? Why am I suddenly losing his name? Quite good. Oh, come on, come on. Please put it up. Rudy Gobert. Okay,
Yeah, go Bear.
who is good. They have Naz Reid, another big dude. So they'll match Oklahoma with size. The question is, who's going to handle the ball for Minnesota? And that's going to be a problem. If Oklahoma shuts off this gentleman named Mike Conley, Minnesota's going to have problems. DiVincenzo, even though he is of Italian ancestry, I believe, will suffer the consequences. I bring that up because I root for the DiVincenzos and Petrucci's of the world sometimes.
Right. Yes, I understand.
Cultural bias,
Right.
All right. Well, Mr. Summer, I believe that wraps up our show for the week, unless you have something else you want to do or bring up.
I don't. I've been taking a little bit of a dive into quantum computing stocks, and I think that on the next show we should talk about that a little bit.
That would be
'Cause
tremendous.
You've
I
brought that
think,
up in the past. I know it's an
well,
interest of you. I think this is the future, and there's some
absolutely.
specific
And this
stocks
is
that I'm keeping
something
an eye on.
that one of our business endeavors are paying attention to quite a bit. And we will have people on the show in the future to talk about this. So thank
Yeah.
you. And we'll
So
leave
we'll
that
kick that
as
off
a
next week.
preview for people. Anyhow, thank you very much for joining us after 3 weeks away. I apologize to everybody, but good to be back. Remember, like, subscribe. Bye-bye.
The Risk Reward Show is a co-production of Angry Metatraders and Leitmotiv Press. It is produced by Scott Summer and Robert Petrucci and engineered by Scott Summer and Sagi Nizri. Music is by All Good Folks, a group of composers based in London that you should definitely check out. You'll find us wherever you get your podcasts, as we're everywhere, like the gods we are.